Hi, Abe. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, good.
Good.
I'm back in town. I was out of
Ah,
town.
where's out of town?
Utah. I went
Oh,
skiing with
oh,
my
good for
son.
you.
So
Nice.
end of season.
Ah, Chaparral.
Yep. So I hadn't had a chance to join you guys for a few days, but I've done
It's
my
hard when you're
effort.
on the road.
Yep. But just the times. The good news is I was able to keep up with my daf. So
Okay.
very good.
Yeah. Where's everybody?
Uh, I don't know. I signed up and there wasn't anyone. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Ernie's here. We can go.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hello.
Ernie.
Hi. We're on 40, Mem Amud Aleph.
Hi, Ernie.
V'chein amar Rabba yishbichu le'emtza, that if adult children improved or worked on a piece of land that they inherited, and there are minor brothers, they all share it equally. Amarle abai mi dami. Remember, we had a case of the wealthy man. A guy showed up and claimed it was his brother, and then he claimed he wanted all his assets that had grown from the time that the father died. So Pasuk Dolim Gabi Ktanim, when you have adult and minor brothers, Yadi v'Kamachli, everyone was moichel to each other on the fact that the adults have to spend a lot of work. But how do you know that here that the Mori Bar Isik was moichel? In fact, Agagal Milsa Umatla Kamirvami. This whole story with the lost brother claiming his rights to the wealthy guy. The case came in front of Ravami. Armeluhu, Gdolamizu, Amru, Shamilam Karis. That if you put a relative into the field of a hostage, you pay him like a sharecropper. So you give him some schar even when nobody was there. Why should not? Why should the older guy not get schar for the work he put in? Mary Bar Isaac is magia him a payment on what he spent and the work that he did. Adru ala kamei, Rav Chizda, it came back to Rav Chizda. And Rav Chizda argued, it's not comparable. Hasan b'shus nachas, achala b'shus nachas. Mari Bar Isaac wasn't given reshus. By a shavui, the Chacham give the permission to a calf to go into the field.
Yeah, but he entered not Birashus or not Birashus, the Beis Din. He had no idea he had a brother.
It's fine, but that's not reshus.
But he wouldn't have had, there's no thought to even go to the Beis Din.
Here, there's a beferishtik halacha, Kenny, that says a karv can go into the field. But in the other case, he didn't. There's no such reshus.
This case is crazy. All of these assumptions are crazy.
Which
This
one?
first assumption that's crazy is this assumption right here. The second assumption that's crazy is that because he's a tough guy, he's got to prove his own brother doesn't exist, and the brother has a chazaka that he does exist. It's wacko.
So, yes, see, there's a plus and a negative to being a tough guy and to being a wealthy guy and to being somebody that everybody's afraid of. In halacha, there is enough kamina. Exactly like, it's not wacko, it is. Because Chazal understood society very well.
And anybody could sue this guy and just say, you owe me money. And therefore, this Beis Din of Rav Chisda would flip it around and say, okay, prove that you don't owe him money.
No, we didn't say that.
But that's what this case is. Guy comes and says, I'm your younger brother. So instead of saying, Amotzi michaver alav araya, we say, you're a tough guy. You prove that he isn't your brother.
Right. The burden of proof is shifted because
So
of his
I come to court and I say, Mari, you owe me money. And I'm afraid to bring witnesses because you're a mafioso. So the
Right.
Beis Din then comes and says, okay, Mari, prove you don't owe Ken money.
right.
It's taking advantage of people.
Yoidin Bezdin. And there's proof, says Ramon, that the guy's a mafiosi. And the guy who's claiming money says, I have Aiden, but they're afraid. Bezdin is koi for the mafiosi to bring Aiden. We paskin like Rav Chisda. But there's a big hill to climb to prove that he's an Ish Olim. First, you have to bring proof that he's an Ish Olim, that he's a mafiosi.
All you have to do is say, my Eidim are afraid to testify.
I know, but there has to be, no. The Shulchan Aruch says there has to be proof. Yesh hochacha l'davar. Maybe there was a case where he had Aiden killed. I don't know what the proof you'd have to bring, but you have to bring proof. You can't just say he's a mafiosi. You have to have edus that you have to have evidence that that's occurred. So that's it. Bezdin doesn't just do it lightly. Mishnah. Hamavkid peretz etzel chaveru. Person left fruit with his friend. And then you're going to return the fruit. Let's say the Gemara is going to say you mixed, let's say he gave you a bunch of pears and you didn't keep the pears separate. You put it in your own pile of pears and you used everything, you kept track. He gave you 10 pounds of pears. So you're going to have to return 10 pounds of pears, not the same pears. So when you give it back to him,
He gives them back different pairs? But didn't we say a person, a kav shalo, is worth tesha kavim of someone else's stuff?
Yeah, but fruit, the guy is going to
We were always talking about bananas.
The guy's going to China for a year. And here, watch my bananas. So that's basically mixed it. We'll see. Some things.
I thought we sold them.
Some things when you're no, you sold things that depreciate. Yeah, you sold things that depreciate. So the Gemara here, if you kept them separate in a corner, then you give him back whatever he gave you. If you mixed it with your own stuff, and the intent is that you're going to give him back whatever he gave you, 10 pounds worth of it. So listen what you have to do. We understand that there's natural waste depreciation. 10%, 5%. Mice are going to eat it. Vermin. There's going to be some rotting. So you only have to give him back the shear that's magia him. He gave you 10 pounds, you have to give him 10 pounds back, you give him back 9 pounds. Whatever, species for species, min for min, the climate, whatever in that region it normally depreciates, that's what you give him back. And lechitim ula oires, wheat and rice. Tisha chatzei kabin lekur. 9.5 kab for every kur. I think a kur is 30 kab. Rashi doesn't say.
180 calves.
How many?
180 calves,
Yeah,
one
that's good.
quarter.
So 9.5 of 180
4.5 calves.
is 5.2%. It's 5.2%. But that's for wheat and rice. Otisha chatzei kapit. So it's really 9.5 cobs.
Like
Mhm.
4.5.
Yeah. So 4.5 divided by 180. 0.025%. 2.5%.
2.5%.
2.5%. Okay. Ula sa'oirin, ula doichen, barley and millet, tisha kabin lakur. 9 for a quart, which is 5%. Ula kusmin ula zera pishtan, oats and flax seed, sholosh sa'in lakur. 3 saw per quart. Hakolafi amida, every item is different. Hakolafi azman. In the summer versus the winter, there might be more or less. Arayach ben Nuri, the chima ichbis lachborin, the mice, what do they care whether there's 100 core, 200 core? They can only eat a certain amount in a year. They're going to eat whether there's a little bit there or not. So he's arguing with the concept of using a percentage. That means you do your calculation for a core. After that, you don't have to give them back anymore. They're not going to eat more than that, even if there were 100 core. With me, the 2.5% is only the first.
Well,
core.
it depends on how many mice there are.
No, they understood how many mice there are. It means the average house, the average whatever,
Mhm.
there's a certain amount lost from mice. And that amount's going to be the same after a certain amount of core, because mice are small animals, they're only going to eat a certain amount. We know if a mouse ate all day, there's going to be a maximum he can eat in a year. So, and we assume a certain number of mice in the house, whatever.
Right.
So
It's not
that's
my experience with mice, but okay.
what they'll just eat no matter what. Yeah, but there's
They call their friends.
Okay. So that Rav Yochanan ben Nuri argues with the Tanakama and says it's not a percentage all the way up. It's that percentage up to a core. And Achborim will not going to eat more than that. Rav Yudah Oimer, Imaisa Merida Meruba, Imaisa Mida Meruba, Eina Motzla Chasronos, if a large amount of material was deposited with the guy who's watching it, he doesn't have to, there's no depreciation. Because, it also will grow. So when you give back exactly what you were given. We're going to see growth means it expands through moisture like the volume will expand. Okay. So even though some of it will be eaten, maybe the volume will be bigger because of expansion. So it'll balance out, is what the Gemara says. Now, the Mishnah said oirez is 9 half kavs for every core. That seems very little for the Gemara. Oirez tuva chaser. Rice depreciates more. Amra v'reichachna ba'oiref baris kol of shana. It's peeled rice. And peeled rice, whatever that is, depreciates less. And then lekusmin uzer pishkan shloisha soin lekur. For kusmin, which is spelt, flax, it's 3 saw for every core. They're in there, it's in the pod that the flax grows in. And that's the example where there's a lot of depreciation. Non-peeled rice. Then it's shloisha soin lakur. Everything depends on the amount and the time of year. Tana, ken l'chol kur v'kur, v'chen l'chol shana v'shana. Amar Rav Yochanan ben Nurimayich b'salach borim. The mice, why do the mice care how much is there? Tanya, Amar lo, so the Chachamim respond to Rav Yochanan, it's not just mice. Harbe or this man. There's many other causes of loss. Harbe mispazus man. So that's why you go up 2.5% no matter what, even up to 100 core, up to 1,000 core. Tana b'medvar mamurim, she'irvan im perosa. All of this Mishnah is talking about a case where he mixed the fruit that was given to him with the guy going to China with his own fruit. He doesn't know what's his, what's his chaver, and then at the end he's going to give him back the same amount. But im yichad lo keren zavis, if he found a corner in his walk-in freezer, and he says he didn't touch it, oimer lo haresh chol fanecha. You take it back. That's it. He doesn't have to come up with depreciation. Yes, no. Take back what you gave. So just because he mixed it with his own fruit, why does he have to do this cheshbon? Let him check his own food, and he'll see what the depreciation was. And the same amount that he was depreciated, give it to the friend. So the mistapik man, because the Baal Bais was eating from his fruit, so he doesn't know the cheshbon. I v'lechzekami istapek. Let him figure out how much he ate and then add up the 2 losses. The lo yodekami istapek doesn't know exactly how much he ate. So we have to do this analysis, like we said, with the percentage. If he gave you a large amount, you don't have to do all this calculation. What's the definition of a large amount? 1,800 kav. You measured at the silo and you returned them at the silo. There's a special measuring device that was used there. The measurement when you took it was from the silo. And when you give them back, it's from your house instruments. You don't have to make any deductions. If anything, it goes up. The midah by the goyren was bigger a little bit. What do you mean? We're not dealing with morons here. They're measuring with different measuring vessels. They're not stupid. If they used a certain measuring vessel at the Goyim, they can use the same measuring vessel. So the Gemara says maybe Dilma Uvimaitza Gorin Ka'aret. It didn't mean at the Gorin, the days of the Gorin, meaning the same season. By the winter time, they swell because they absorb moisture and it causes a little enlargement. So whatever was depreciated by the mice will be offset by the enlargement. So if it blows up during the winter time, lepokakata, maybe therefore the jug that he put the items in would have broken because it swelled. In fact, hava uvdu pokakata. Yep, it happened. Ibois ema, another svara, mishum itzitzah. When the seeds were in the silo with very large amounts versus when they're put in a very tight place, so there's a pressure. So you can use a smaller vessel, it would work out equal. Now, the Mishnah we just learned deals with solid items. So this Mishnah next, Yotzi lo shtus le'ayin. There's also depreciation for liquids. Wine is reduced by a sixth. Why? Because the barrel and the other items that are holding the wine absorb it. There's absorption. Revid oimer, choimish, a fifth. Yoitzi lo shloisha lugin, shemen l'meya. For olive oil, it's 3 lug for every 100 lug, 3%. Loigu mechza shel shmorim. This is like the sediment of grapes. The logu mechza bola. Of the 3 that we said is lost from oil, 1.5 of it is sediment. 1.5 is absorbed by the walls of the barrel that's holding the oil. If it's very fine oil, which doesn't have sediment, and so then it's only 1.5. And if they were very old barrels, so it doesn't absorb anymore. And so you don't have to take into account the absorption. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, somebody who sells very fine, clear olive oil the rest of the year, you have to accept that he's only going to give you 98.5. That's how much sediment is in there. What are these dinim doing here in Masechta Bavli? It's for Mekach u'Memkar. It's societal. It's economic. It's for business purposes, so that people know whether they're getting stiffed by the storekeeper. You know, when you go in to buy 100 gallons of oil, and you come home and there's 98.5, that's okay. That's how the mischar worked. The low pligi, there's no machlokes between the shasus of the Tanakama, meaning a 6th and a 5th of Rabbi Yehuda. Marki Asre. In Rabbi Yehuda's territory, Lamaisa, that's what ended up being the depreciation. Basri Demar, the Tanakama, Chofu B'Yakar, V'Lamayit Tfei. They would line the jugs with wax, it doesn't absorb as much. In Rav Yehuda's area, they used pitch, and it caused more absorption. So that's the machlokas. It's a machlokas in Metzias, not a machlokas in Yesod. Mishum Gargishta, that the jugs, most vessels were made out of earthenware, pottery, and the earth in different regions absorbed either more or less. High maitzatfei, valo maitzatfei. Ba'asrid Rav Yehuda Ramu Arboim v'tamnin kuzi bedano. In Rav Yehuda's area, they were able to put 48 buckets into a barrel. That's how big the barrels were there. And then Azul Dane B'Shisa Zuzi. The cost of the barrel was Shisha Dinari. Paris Rav Yehuda Shisha Bezuza. He would sell 6 of these buckets for a zuz. Dal tasim shisa b'shisa. So 36 of the safolim were sold for 6 zuz each. And that way he got back what he paid for the barrel, partially tracer. So he's left profit 12 safolim. But Dal Tamne Shisusi, there were, because he sold 8 different units, each one you take a 1/6 off. So he's only left with Arba. Partial Arba, that's his profit. Ivamer Shmuel Amishtaker, Ayishtaker Yosral Shisus. When you make profit, you're supposed to only make a 1/6. According to Rav Yehuda, he made less than a 1/6, right? He made 4 out of 48. Why did he accept less profit? So the more answers, Ika Gulfi Ushmare. Because the barrel and the sediments, because he bought everything for 6 zuz, that adds to the profit. So maybe he made more than a 6 profit. But then there's the work that he puts in. Ikatircha. He has to sell it. Udmei barzanisa. You have to hire a barrel expert to plug in the holes in the barrel. So it's all fine and clear. You don't have to deduct the sediment if you bought, clear oil. Then we said if you had a very good barrel that doesn't absorb, you don't have to deduct that. But the Gemara says everything's going to absorb a little bit. Amrav Nachman, b'mizu vofin. These were lined with pitch, with tar, shanu, and they didn't absorb anything. They were waterproofed. Like Noach, who used pitch to insulate the teva, so it'd be as waterproof as it could be. Abaya Omar. Abaya can explain. I feel I could learn up the Gemara even without barrels that were lined. Kivin shaton tone. Once a barrel absorbs, it can't absorb anymore. When you sold oil a whole year, they accepted 1.5 out of 100. Amra Abaya, Kishatim Suloimar. The Divrei Buddha, Mutar la'arav shmarim. You know what? The sediments that have sunk to the bottom of the barrel, you can stir it all up. Well, the Divrei Chachamim usher. According to Chachamim, you can't. The Divrei Buddha Mutar la'arav shmarim ha'inu time of the Mekabel. because the one who purchases it deducts logo method because it's all been mixed together. The Omar lay, the seller can say, if you want me to mix it up, I'll mix it up. Hashanami kabil. So he'll accept it either way. The lay malay, let the purchaser say, obviously have him mizabinli. Hashti mavid le lechudi lo mizabinli. If you would have mixed it up for me with the shmorim, you would have sold it to me. What am I going to do with it now? You're not selling it separately, and I'm losing it. So balabayis askina, we're talking about a householder who needs the olive oil. He's not going to sell it. He needs it for himself. The nicha betzila. He wants fine, clear olive oil to cook with. And it's easier for him, for the moicha to deduct 1.5% and get the shemen that he needs without the shmor. Lay malay, let the buyer say, me the law, obviously, from the fact you didn't mix it up, achuli achatali. Maybe you were moichel me, and you should give me 100, not 98.5. So the question is, Rabbi Tamei, the less lay machila. The koine cannot say that the moichel is moichel above the normal purchase price. And this is set the standard purchase price. Where do we see this? Mochel lo lechaver with semed. I say I'm going to, semed is a yoke that you put 3 animals in to plow. Now, I say I'm going to sell you at semed. Lo mochelos abokar. Using the word yoke is a diuk that I'm only selling you the yoke, not the animals. But the Chachamim disagree. Machalos abokar, lo machalos atzemet. And similarly, if I'm selling you the cattle, I'm not going to sell you the yoke. But Rav Yehuda Omer Hadami Moedin, you know what? Forget about what he said. The price is going to determine what he bought. Ketzad. Marchalit Smetcha b'Masayim Zuz. Sell me your yoke for $200. Well, everybody, however you do a Shenat Semed is b'Masayim Zuz. Everybody knows that a yoke costs 5 zuz, not 200. So therefore, the kavana is for the yoke with the animals in it. The Chachamim are no, enadamim raya. Maybe the moichel was moichel to the koina. And he's either he's charging him a very little or charging him a lot. The divrei chachamim asur la'arish shmorim. The way the chachamim are learning, the seller cannot mix up the shmorim. Behind time is lo makabel, and therefore the purchaser doesn't accept the depreciation. The amarle, he boys lehuv. If I wanted you to mix it, mi avishayilach. Or if you wanted to do it, I wouldn't have wanted you to do it. So Hashanami lo mekabel. So now the fact that you did it after the fact, I don't accept it. The opposite makes sense. According to Chachamim, I should be allowed to mix the sediment. The reason why the purchaser is makabel, the amarle, the purchaser says me lo eraftali from the fact that you didn't mix me achol echaltali. You were moichel me the other. And l'div Rabbi Yehuda also la'arv shmorim. You're not allowed to mix. Hainu time of the makabel. To amarle, the seller says he boy le ruvi lo shari le la ruvi lecha. Even if I wanted to mix, it's also for me. Because Kibbutz lo kamakad, you wouldn't have accepted the depreciation. Zavin v'zavin tagri ikri. That means I buy and sell at the same price. And you're going to call me a businessman? I have to make some profit. Okay. Tana echad lokech v'echad mafkid lebekotim. Bekotim is something that floats on the top of a barrel of oil. if you buy that or you give it over to somebody to watch. So first the Gemara asks, "My lepkotim." Just like a purchaser of a barrel of oil, he doesn't accept that depreciation. He will also not accept. You have to return him clear oil. Let the person who's going to be watching this. What am I going to do with the fact that your olive oil is not perfect? Just like it's understood that that's going to be accepted at a certain deduction percentage-wise. A purchaser will also accept a certain deduction. Does a purchaser accept that? We described sort of dirty-looking oil when it refers to a seller. We already said that somebody who buys oil accepts a 1.5% deduction. But if I'm purchasing clear oil, obviously I want it below pkotim. So lo kasha hadi yav lezuzi betishrei v'koshaka b'nei b'nissen kimida tishrei. If I gave money in Tishrei, that's the time that they press olives, and I pick it up from his warehouse in Nisan 6 months later. At the time, I paid him a little less. And he has to accept the shemen the way it was in Tishrei. At that time, though, the shemen is a little black. Now, when he pays the money in Nisan, it's according to the measurements in Nisan. He has to pay a little bit more if he wants clear oil. I deposited a barrel with my neighbor. And the owner of the barrel didn't designate a certain place to keep it there. The shomer moved it, and it broke. If it's still in his hand, so if he moved the barrel l'tzorcho, he wanted for his own purposes, he'd have to pay the damages. If he moved it because, for example, the barrel was in the sun, and that does damage to the barrel, he wanted to move it to a shady area to protect the barrel, l'tzorcha, potter. So that's all when it was still in his hands. And once he put the barrel down after he moved it, and then it broke, nishbara, bein l'tzorcho potter. Now, that's, in all these cases, the original bailim didn't designate a place for the barrel. However, yachtu bailim maka, if when the bailim came into my house to put it in my house, he said, I want you to put the barrel here and leave it here. And the tiltula of the nishbra, and the shomer moves it, then it doesn't make a difference. If he does it for his own purposes, chayiv, l'tzorcha potter. Hamani Rabbi Shmuel, who is our Mishnah? Rabbi Shmuel, who says Lobin and Das Bailing. This is talking about a ganif. When a ganif, returns something that he stole, he doesn't have to tell the guy who stole from that he returned it. A goynif tlemina eder, you steal a sheep from a flock, or summon a kis, or a coin from a purse, l'makam shaganav yachzir, he just has to return it. He doesn't have to inform anybody. Elu did Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva will learn differently. We'll learn this tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Tomorrow, what time? 9?
No, tomorrow, 8 o'clock is the
Surah.
Surah Bashir. We should learn at 6 o'clock.
Whoever can.
I would suggest we learn if everyone can do that. Abe, is that okay for you? Kenny, is that okay for you?
Don't count on me. I have a banquet tonight.
Tomorrow's a banquet. Because it wouldn't make a difference no matter when we did it.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have to pick it up on.
Okay, so let's do it, let's do it at 6. That way we don't have to do it later.
All right, Lila Tov.
Other time.
Okay. Thank you.